Okay, so let's bring in our data for our dashboard. Go to Get Data. First we'll bring in the lookup tables. That's from an Excel workbook. And navigate out to where you stored yours. There it is, Master Lookup Tables. And because that Excel file had more than one sheet to it, here's the three. You can bring in the whole worksheet for these, but it also looks within the worksheet and it finds these tables, which is this icon. Let's load it to a table and not in the data model for now, and click OK. And then you have your queries over here. You get table, sales, employee, table for product, and your customer. So there's all of your data. Okay, now let's bring in our sales data. So Get Data, this time the file is a text CSV format. Get your January only file and bring it in. Load it to a table, not in the data model. Okay. Okay, so now we've got the table, all the three lookup tables brought in, and our January sales brought in. Okay, now thinking about what we're going to need to make this dashboard, I need to get total sales. So I need the sales amount, but the problem is that my data just has the quantity and the price. So I need to create the sales amount, which will be, take the quantity times the price. Okay, now notice that because I loaded this as a table, Excel is using the table, and that's what the @ symbols are for. So that means go row by row as you do that calculation. So there's my sales amount. Then, in order to get this count of sales by category, I need to have the quantity sold and I need to have the product category together in the same table. Well, I've got the quantity sold on this table, but the product category is on this table, the product group. And so I won't be able to pivot because they're not in the same place. So I'm going to need to bring in my product category. And I'll do that by, I can look up, what I do have in this table is the product ID. So product number 24. Look for that on my lookup table. It's in this column, and then you're going to want to return from this column. Okay, so if you need to select this table, and the column that you're looking for your value in needs to be the leftmost column, so it needs to be this product item ID. So it'll look for number 24, and then it'll bring back a mug. So look for 24 in this table. When you find it, bring back column 1, 2, 3, and I want an exact match, which means that you choose the false option. So now I can combine quantity with product category. Next, for the salesperson, and product and total sales. So I need which salesperson this was, and their name. And what I've got is their ID number. So let's look up the salesperson ID, and I want to go into this data. But now I have a problem because I want to look it up. My ID is in the right column, and the VLOOKUP will only take if the ID is in the leftmost column. So I've got to escape out of here and go fix my data. Take your ID and cut it and paste it back in over here so that the lookup value is in the leftmost column, and then I can return the name. Okay, let's try that again. Equals, do a VLOOKUP, look for the salesperson ID. Salesperson number 3 in this table. So make sure that all of it is selected. When you find it, return the second column and false for your exact lookup. Last, I'm going to need the customer name. For the customer, I also need to do a lookup. Look up the customer ID, customer 1045. In this list of customers, bring back the second column with an exact match. Okay, now we have everything that we need all connected within one table. So with my cursor inside this table, I could insert and then a pivot table from a table or range. It will assume I want to use the table that I've got right here, which is what I want. On a new worksheet, yes. So this worksheet is going to be total sales. I need to know sales amount, total sales. There it is. Let's format it. And on this same page, let's do another pivot table. Close that down. So insert another pivot table from a table or range. I'm not inside the table at the moment, so it doesn't know where to look, so I need to tell it. The table or range, go out to the worksheet, go to January sales, this table. So select the whole thing, put it in my existing worksheet, total sales, in cell D3, okay. So there we go. I want to have the count of sales by category. So category will be my rows. That looks good. So I'm trying to get it to match this. So I've got the categories coming up, and now I want the count of sales, and these numbers are not correct, so let me fix those. It's going to be the quantity sold and sum it all up. 58,000 units of clothing. Let me sort it, largest to smallest, and create a chart. So on my analyze, I could put in a pivot chart. I want a bar chart, excuse me. Now notice that when I sort it, largest to smallest, the chart goes backwards. It's like the chart starts at the bottom and builds up. So I need to sort from smallest to largest on my chart, on my pivot table, and then my chart turns out from largest to smallest. I don't need the legend, that doesn't help anything. I can right click on this to hide all the field buttons because I don't need those. Let's change the title to the count of sales by category. And instead of using this axis, so I'll delete that, I'm going to right click and add data labels on the outside. Okay, now notice how they're not formatted. And one way you can format it is to go back to the original pivot table and then do a number format here. Number format. Number. Use a 1000 separator. Okay, there we go. So now I've got the 1000 separator in there. What else? Looks like I don't have the grid lines, so I'll take off the grid lines and change the color. So highlight, click on the grid lines, and then just hit delete, and then select and format the data series with a fill color of green. And I'm going to lower the gap width a little bit. Okay, let me start to build my dashboard. I want to have a text box. Okay, in the text box I want to have sales for January. And then I want to have the dollar amount. Well, the dollar amount comes from here, but the question is, how do I get the dollar amount to show up in my text box, because this is only text. It can't read or understand a formula. But if I put up in the formula bar, if I put equals and then I come over here and I click on that, see, it'll bring in that number. If I do sales for January and then a dash, now I've got it. I take all of that and I can increase the size and center it, both horizontally and vertically, and let's change the font color. Okay, so I've got my first part, the sales for January and the value going. Now let's get our graph, this one. Let me bring that in, align it, pull it over, shorten it up. Looks pretty good. Let's make these smaller. Okay, I'm good with that. Then next, so that's my total sales. Now I would need to make these pivot tables. Product, top 5 customers, and top 3 salespeople. Okay. Let's create another sheet. Need to insert another pivot table. One quick way to do that is just to take any pivot table and select the whole thing. So if I do this one, I've got to select all of it and then do a copy and paste. And what that does is it keeps all of the connections, and then you can just come up here and take your pivot fill charts and just edit it. So you don't have to go back and select all of the, what table you want it to come from. So this will be the top 5 customers. So I want the customer names. There they are, and not by quantity, but by sales amount. Okay, and let's sort it, largest to smallest, and then take only the top 5, so a value filter. So that it's in the right order. I've only got the top 5. Now let's format. And I could go on the design and remove the totals. Okay. So there's my top 5 customers. And if you look at our example dashboard, that is actually a pivot table. You can tell because I've got the filter right there, and you can kind of tell by the styling on it. But I don't want, so if I put this in my dashboard, just copy it, paste it in here, and move it over to here-ish. So this comes in an actual cell, so I can't read everything correctly, and if I widen that out, see, it widened this, which widens this text box that sits on top of it. So a couple of things. First, let's get it formatted correctly. So pivot table design. There. So we've got, took a design and could take the fill and make it darker. And then row labels came in by default, but if I click on it, I can retype it to be top 5 customers by product, and then change the font to white. And then sum of sales amount, I don't need, I just called it sales, and then the $, and format it like this is formatted. There we go. Okay, that looks pretty good. Looks like this part. Top 3 salesmen by product. Let's get that. Let me just rename this top 5 customers and top 3 salesmen. Take my pivot table, copy it, paste it in again. This time, when I pull up, pivot table, analyze, looking at my filled list back. Okay, not by customer, but by salesperson. So there's my salespeople. I need to sort it, largest to smallest, and get the number formatting set. And I only want the top 3. Okay, on this design now, this is not a pivot table design. I've got the name and the amount together in this box. So we're going to create that differently on my dashboard. So first let's make our little 1, 2, 3 things. So we're going to insert a shape. There it is. Let's get all of our formatting done. So put a fill on it and put a 1 inside it and have that be green and a little bit bigger over here. And centered and centered. Okay. And then once I've got the button the way that I want it, oh, let me change the outline of it too. So this is a shape format, the outline to green. Okay. Once I have it the way I want it, I can copy it and paste it 2 more times. And then change to 2 and 3. Okay, now for each one of those I want a text box with the name. And inside I want to have the person's name and then the sales amount. And so this box will be like a shell that I fill. It's like a background box. Let me fill it with my color, and then inside it I want to put the name. So I'm going to create another text box. And for this text box it's going to equal and then go get my top person, and then make another one, and create a formula that will go over and grab that amount. Okay, are there other ways to make this happen? Yes, I'm purposely trying to show you different ways to do things. Shape. Here, let's do shape fill. This one, fill it. The font, center it, centered and centered. Okay, then if I put, my goal is to put this inside here, but I don't want the background to show up, so let me remove the border. And same on this one, remove the border. This one looks a little bit wide. There we go. Okay. And the border of the whole shape. Let's get rid of that. Now if I start to, see these are all separate, so once I get it set up how I want to take this and control and select both of those, and then on the shape format I can align them, align their middles so that they're so that the height is adjusted correctly. And then let me just also control and select the outer box and then come into the shape and group all of that together so that now that's one shape, and when it moves around it all moves together. Once you've got it set up once, let's come down into here. I want to have that equal, and then go get your second salesperson. And similarly over here, go get the second salesperson amount, so that's H2. And then on this one, instead of G2, I want G4 and H4. Okay, and then all of the formatting is applied on that. Okay, so now I can take this one and that one and align them, align their middles. Same with this one and that one. That, this. And these three. So these three need to align left, get those to line up, and these three align left. Okay, and then how close are we? We're very close. Top 3 salespeople by product. I need that title. And if you notice, it looks like it's the exact same height as this, and this was a cell. So that's actually merged cells instead of a text box. If I do those cells, we're just trying to show different ways of doing things. You can pick which way you think works best. So our header will be top 3 salespeople by product. I want to take it and across those cells I want to align it. So I'd rather not merge it. I'm just going to align it. Horizontally center across the selection and then fill it and change the font. Okay, then a slicer. So pick either of those pivot tables, and we want to insert a slicer. And the slicer is going to control the category. There they are. On my slicer settings, well, let's get them working first. So if I pick just chocolate now, watch these two. See, it's tied to this one because that was the one that I had selected when I put the slicer in. But I want it to control both of them. So once I've created the slicer, then on the slicer report connections, here's the sheet that it's in, which is top 5 and top 3, and this one isn't checked. So the generic pivot table names could be better, but there we go. So now if I change to clothing, both of them should update. Now notice how the sizes are changing based on the length of the names. and then I can undo all of them. Okay, so I'm going to take this slicer and cut it and paste it over here in my dashboard. A couple of changes I want to make. So in the slicer, I want it to be green. That looks good. I need it to be in a row like that. Well, the options that you have on the slicer are to change the number of columns. So right now I've got 1 column, 2 columns, 3. So I'm going to pull this out and make 7 columns. Make this smaller, make this wider. I don't want it to say category, because over here, like, they look almost the same. Everything's matching except this doesn't have the word category. That's a slicer setting. So go into slicer, slicer caption, I have category. If I put nothing, and then it's just a little bit crowded, let me just scoot this down. Okay. Let's make sure everything works. If I hit chocolate, this updates. That isn't updating. Oh, because when I put this in, I copied my table, and then when I did my slicer settings, this isn't the right table. So this pivot table right here is pivot table number 4. Let me go and report connections on my slicer. I need pivot table number 4 to be connected. Okay, now let's try it. There. And I'm noticing one strange thing. See, only my Tailspin Toys is formatted. That's because when I did my formatting, I did format cells, and I should have done number format so that then it would apply to everything. There we go. There's our first dashboard. Let me know if you have questions.